Good afternoon, human beings of planet Earth. My name is Tanya Aganova, and it is such a pleasure to be with you here today. I would like to invite to be spotlighted alongside me, my co-host, co-pilot with the most, the one and only Meenakshi Mano.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the launch of the People's Budget from the Defund 604 Network.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I know I shouldn't be like expressing my own personal enjoyment and excitement, but it's not about me today, but I just want to let you know that I'm hype. I'm super excited. The Defund Network stands in solidarity with Indigenous self-determination and organizes on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, the Kwikwetlem, the Kwantlen, the Katzie, and the Quay Quayt and Stolo peoples.
Thank you so much for that, Tanya. So before we get into any of this good work, here to situate us, ground us, and root this afternoon's festivities in a good way is the one and only Audrey Siegl, xʷməθkʷəyəm. Audrey is a badass feminist freedom fighter from the unceded ancestral territories of the Musqueam First Nation. She's spent much of her life on the front lines of movements against poverty, houselessness, the current drug policy crisis that we're living through, police misconduct and inaction as it relates to missing and murdered Indigenous women, Two-Spirit and girls across so-called Canada, as well as raising awareness on the connections between extractive industries and the violation of land and human rights on these territories. Audrey is a traditional drummer, weaver, and musician. You can always find her shouting and singing truth to power through every avenue available. We are so grateful to welcome Audrey today, this incredible human, beloved defender of the realm. She's played an incredible and undeniable role in the creation and sustenance of many grassroots environmental, social, political frontline movements on these territories and beyond. And she just became a grandma to a bunch of beautiful kittens that I have just loved watching grow on Instagram. So welcome, Audrey. Really excited to see you here today.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much, Meenakshi. And boy, I would love to borrow that bio that you read out because I always have, hello, everybody. Thank you for all the highs and all the love. I'm going to share, if you can see, that's just from a few minutes ago, a baby and her 5 babies that are so big and fat and healthy. And that's such a huge source of medicine, not just for me, but for apparently so many other people. So thank you all for joining me on this journey. I'd like to start by saying what's on my shirt from Lady Bear Designs, not today colonizer, not any day ever, no more, enough is enough. Meetsap Kwikwetlem at Tnas Hankaminum Kanaf Tamo Tanatwell, I Quinishqualowens Quincy Quitsnala, Hamtnak Quinisquich Tinitsen Musqueam, Quay Quayt eat Selena August Finisite Ash. I Quinishqualowens Quincy Quitsnala Tanatwell. I don't say these words lightly. I'm very grateful that I get to learn and speak the language of my ancestors on the land of my ancestors. I recognize 100% what a privilege that is. And with that privilege come all kinds of amazing honors, duties, responsibilities, obligations, and I take every one of them seriously. And this is part of the amazing work that I get to do because I am connected to this land. And I raise my hands to the organizers, to every set of hands and eyes, every heart that is connected with this work, and ask you all to be gentle with yourself through this conversation and for all the days to come, because we've already been brutalized so much. And the English translation, I am healing from a concussion, so you might notice a slight difference in my ability to concentrate. I'm trying not to look directly at the screen, but still have you know that I am feeling connected with you. I said welcome, to the unceded lands of the Musqueam speaking people. My name is xʷməthkʷəyəm. I am from Musqueam. I am the granddaughter of the late Stephen and Selena August. And it brings me feelings of great joy to be here with you today, to be with each of you badass humans who is stepping up, who is saying yes to the work, who is saying yes to the change, and is actually doing what is necessary for the shift to come. That I love that this Instagram page exists, Defund 604 Network. I love the messaging that you're putting out. I love the consistency and the connecting dots from so many different issues, which people would think aren't connected if they aren't aware of what colonization and femicide and ecocide driven genocide look like. Defund 604 is a huge heart issue for me. Here on these lands, our name for the police, our word is the ones who shackle us, the ones who tie us up. And throughout my life, throughout my mother's life, throughout my grandmother's life, throughout my great-grandmother's life, and beyond, what has happened to our lands because of colonial structures that include law enforcement agencies like the police, which are set up to protect the crown and its properties at any expense, which we see time and time again. My people, we've lost almost everything. We are very humbled and grateful and honored and aware of how lucky we are to be here on these lands where we're displaced so far away from their homelands. And personally, I have a personal investment in not just defunding these police, all RCMP, military. I have I'm trying to think of how to tiptoe into this to not trigger anybody. If you have a Teflon suit, put it on. I'm going to very gently wade into why defunding the police is a huge heart issue and an everyday issue for me as an Indigenous woman, the #1 targeted group of people in Canada. The police, we know the police aren't our friends. We know we can't trust them. And I have proof of that because of what they did and continue to do to my women. Going back to my granny, my mother, my sister, my younger family members, the violence that includes rape, that includes beatings, that includes theft, that includes Starlight tours. There's no end to it. Seeing how that impacted the women in my life, seeing how hard they had to work to put themselves back together after the damage that the police did to them, seeing how they don't protect, and seeing how they don't protect us. That when I was in situations of domestic abuse, had stalkers, people trying to break into my house, not only were they not helpful, they made the situation worse. And the way that they banded together to protect the most violent ex I have, who happens to be non-Indigenous, who happens to be, a settler, a white settler. I have countless personal reasons to be involved in not just defunding the police, but in setting up community policing and in setting up what would be the modern version of our laws, of our systems of justice, and of our ways of promoting and protecting life that kept us safe on these lands for over 10,000 years. We have proven systems of being able to keep our women and our babies and our vulnerable protected. We had ways of keeping justice if someone stepped out of those parameters, and they were hyper effective. And I don't want to move back in time. I want to move forward with what worked, and I want to move forward with you, and I want to move forward with systems of laws that are actually based on justice, not dollar-based bottom lines, not protecting colonial property, not only protecting colonial lives. Our lives matter. And right now, our lives matter as a priority because we are the BIPOC folks. We are the ones that are most targeted. We are the ones that are disappearing and being targeted at accelerated rates every year. We can see what's happening at the Strathcona tent city, the targeting and the non-protection. We can see on the streets of the downtown east side, the targeting and the non-protection. We can see on the highway of tears. We don't have to look far to see evidence of who is protected and who is not, and who matters and who doesn't, to the state, to the police, to the colonial systems and structures. And I'm here to tell you that each and every one of you, you matter. You matter more than any pile of money. You matter more than any piece of property, and you matter more than any corrupt colonial law. We are told that we're breaking their laws and that matters. But how many of our laws have been broken for over 200 years on this coast and over 500 years on the other coast? I walk with and work with my ancestors, and I walk with and I work with our laws while doing enough to keep myself off the radar so I don't end up how my mom and sister and countless other Indigenous folks across Turtle Island ended up. I am grateful to walk with each of you. I pray and I put medicines down every day for our safety. I ask you each in your own mind to think of your loved ones, to think of all of the ones we've had memorials for and prayers for here in Turtle Island over the last year, over the last 200 years. I ask you to please take care of yourself and hold yourself as steady as possible, to take steps back like the geese. We learn from the geese, the one at the front moves to the back and another one moves up. We don't want to have one leader. We want all of us to be able to step up and be a leader. And we want all of us to be able to step back as well. Loving ourselves means knowing when we need to take care of ourselves and knowing when we need to protect ourselves from totally preventable trauma. We can't necessarily stop what the police are doing yet, but we can limit its impact on us by stepping up for each other and stepping up with each other. I would love to take you each to the trees with me. If you're seated, I invite you to just sit back, feel your feet on the earth, on the floor, on your carpet, in your shoes, in your bare feet. Relax your knees, feel your hips relax into the chair. Drop your shoulders, drop your eyebrows, drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Take a slow, steady breath in. I invite you in your mind's eye to look around and see ancient trees as far as your eye can see in every direction. To see the ferns, to see the moss, to wiggle your bare toes and to feel that earth cool and refreshing in between your toes and under your feet. Smell the cedar, smell the pine, smell the earth, that ocean you hear off in the distance. Smell it. Those little birds, let their songs in, let them love you. Let the energy from the ancient ones who live in these beautiful old trees move through you. And as we move forward in this sacred and heavy work, come to this place whenever you need. Come to this place to honor your loved ones. Come to this place to honor the ones that will never know what happened to them. come to this place to care for your spirit, for your Siawan, to connect to your Tsi'wäneth, to your ancestors. Let your body just relax and hold here for a moment. Feel your mind relax, feel your body relax, feel your heart slow down. And when you're ready, open your eyes and hold yourself with this energy for this important work that we're embarking on together. I don't just want to focus on why we need to defund the police. I want that to be part of the focus. I want us to focus on what are we bringing in place? What kind of structures will we be putting in that make sure that our most vulnerable are cared for and protected? What structures are we going to be putting in place that connect the earth to the people, that honors the teachings of whichever land we happen to be on? What structures are we putting in place that protect life, not dollars? And what structures are we putting in place that empowers us? What structures are we putting in place to bring forward all of the teachings that are in our DNA, in our hearts, our minds, that come out of our words, that come out as songs, to honor the ones that we come from? I always think of JB, First Lady of Hip Hop, at all the rallies. When I say people, you say power, people power, people power, people power, because we are the people and we are the power. And I honor your power and I see your power and you are so beautiful. I want to finish with just a short song. It's a medicine song. It's a teaching song. It's a healing song. I sing this song for our hearts and spirits. And I sing this song for our loved ones. I sing this song for all the lives that have been stolen by VPD, by law enforcement, by RCMP. I sing this for all of the minds and bodies like mine that are terrified of them, that the sight of a uniform, the sound of a siren sets us off. I sing this for all the ones who are doing the hard work to make the day happen and all the work that will come from this. And you can see I sing this song for the Red Women and all of you who are standing up to protect us. And I can't thank you all enough. And I put down medicine every day for us, for you, for all of the hands that are making this work possible. And I'm really excited for an update on anything to come from this, from the conversations that happened today. It is my day off, so I'm gonna go relax in the sun, but would love to touch base with anyone who's interested to hear how this went today. And again, I raise my hands and I say Hetsepka, and I send so much love and I send so much gratitude and I send so much like fun and magic energy for you as well. Thank you. I love you too. I adore you, Karina. And everybody have a great day.
Thank you so, so, so much, Audrey, for being with us today. And thank you so much for doing the right thing and heading straight out into the sunshine to get it all over your face and your body.
Yes.
You're making the right decision.
Yes.
I just
Yes.
want to note that in the chat, there's so many people being like, I love Audrey so much.
No.
We are so grateful to have you here today. And I just want to echo some of the things that you said about taking this time to envision what we want to build together, how we want to supplant police power. We spend a lot of time being angry with the police and focusing our energy on them, but building together is really what's needed. So don't worry, Audrey, we'll be harassing you about what transpires here today.
Awesome. And one last thing, because, and
Yeah.
Tanya, I hope, forgive me if I don't remember if we've met in person, but if we haven't, I look forward to meeting you. And if we have, I look forward to spending time with you again. And don't ever forget, our rage is sacred. Our rage is fucking sacred. And we're going to do sacred work with it. Don't ever feel bad about your anger. Don't ever feel bad about your rage. Don't ever feel bad about the tears that you cry. And also learn to comfort yourself when that rage comes up. Also learn that we can still feel love even when we're feeling rage, that I'm enraged about so much that is what has happened, but I'm not going to let it destroy my body and my spirit and take me away from my work. If we each balance each other out and get to the work of filling in the gaps that we're naturally meant to fill in, we won't have to carry so much on our own. And that sacred rage, it's like the mud that the lotus flower grows in. And I see lotus flowers everywhere. And that means there's a whole lot of mud. So
Amen
carry
to
on.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. And
Also,
our time will come.
Yes, it is. We're not accepting anything else. Nothing else. No more compromise, no more conversation. We're done with that. It's action and we're leading it. And if people don't like it, either step up or step back, because we're coming through. We're done with the bullshit. No more stolen sisters, no more stolen mothers, babies, brothers, fathers, uncles. No more. We're all done.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. We're completely done. Audrey,
Yes.
thank you so, so much for being with us. And this is just the beginning of our relationship. I know it. And I'm so grateful that you were able to join us today.
Thank you. And everyone else, take some time to get out in the sun and let it get all over you. I'm doing my nails and gonna go play in the trees.
Yes, as you should. Thank you, Audrey.
Buddy, and so happy to hear from you all. And thank you for all the love.
Nothing but love for Audrey Siegl. For those of you who are watching via the YouTube live link, you should have access to links to Audrey's work. Please continue to follow them and their progress as they continue to just be on the forefront of so many incredible movements in our community and beyond. We are gathered here today to talk about a people's budget. So for many of you, I'm sure this language has been floating around the ether for you, but what we would like to do is give a little bit of an explanation as to what a people's budget is. So a people's budget is a public participatory process that provides all people the opportunity to identify their priorities for public spending and have control over how these public funds are allocated. A well-done people's budget reflects and responds to the needs of the community, particularly those who have been underserved, over-policed, and purposefully marginalized. The Defund 604 People's Budget 2022 survey, which came out today, is a first step towards understanding the needs of those most marginalized by over-policing and decision-making processes. It is an invitation to imagine what our communities might feel like if we had the resources to invest in the services, programs, and interventions that we identify as crucial in community building. This is a public education and community building exercise focused on empowering folks, that means you, to understand that we can and should have a meaningful say in how the City of Vancouver's budget is spent, and to prove once and for all that together we can find ways to prioritize justice and equity in our budget in ways that improve all lives in the city of so-called Vancouver. Many of you have been following the work of the Defund 604 network, and hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at and read our carefully crafted demands. There are two that we want to highlight today that go hand in hand with the People's Budget Survey, and they are as follows. We demand the city engage in a participatory budgeting process in order to divest from policing and build a community safety framework which prioritizes community programs, social services, housing, mental health outreach teams, emergency response teams, and peer-led resources. Demand 2, we demand community control over the reallocation of funds from the VPD and other forms of policing to support programming, training, education, organizing, and services in our communities. Today, we are going to hear from some of the city's most respected hearts and minds about how they would defund and redirect 50% of the VPD's astronomical budget and the ways in which we can shift our priorities as a society and begin to invest in cops. Or wait a second, did I just say that? And begin to invest in care, not cops. I'm going to pass it on to Meenakshi, and they are going to invite up our first speaker.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And thank you so much to Audrey Siegl, xʷməthkʷəyəm from Musqueam Nation for joining us to start this party in a good way. And I know our t-shirts are getting lots of love. This one is from MPD 150, who are doing lots of good work in Minneapolis to abolish their local police department. So yes, that's what we got to do on Zoom, is take out all the cool shirts. So, you know, this party's just getting started today. And again, we're going to hear from some amazing speakers. We're also going to have some incredible performances because it is a party and we're here to celebrate and imagine what we're going to do once we liberate those funds that the police have pilfered from us. So still to come, we have performances from Vanessa and Josh Cameron. We have speakers Lama Mugabo, Kit from Pace, Garth Mullins. We're also going to hear some poetry by Tawahum Bige. And let's get into it. I'm going to pass it over to Tanya to introduce our first performance.
Thank you so much. So coming up first, we are so blessed to have two incredible human beings with us today. Vanessa and Josh Cameron are multidisciplinary artists and performers. Vanessa was born in rural northern Taiwan, then immigrated to Turtle Island in 2006. Their art, expression, and whole being is inspired by the natural world, plants, animals, and the internal, external aspects of the human experience. Vanessa loves to share and express these stories through music, poetry, movement, paintings, photos, and videos. Josh Cameron is a fourth-generation settler born in Vancouver, BC, on the unceded territories of the Semiahmoo, Katzie, Kwikwetlem, Kwantlen, Qiqéyt, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. Josh is currently focused on pursuing more multidisciplinary stage and film work, using these as a vessel to investigate themes of identity and social justice. He is an active member of Immigrant Lessons, and under the creative direction of Kevin Fraser, the collective is developing a full-length production entitled Origins, set to premiere in 2021. Introducing Vanessa and Josh. Thank you so much, Vanessa and Josh, for this incredible performance. Vanessa, I know you're in the room with us right now. It would be wonderful if we could hear from you just for a quick second about what this performance meant to you. I'm seeing in the chat here, it's just so beautiful, really amazing to see. You know, mental health is something that is touching all of our lives. And as all of us have creative outlets, and being able to express our experiences dealing with these huge issues is so beautiful. So I want to thank Vanessa and Josh for being able to translate what was important to them, which is providing mental health supports to people, into this beautiful piece of creative work. I'm going to move on to the next speaker because I don't think Vanessa's here. So thank you again, Vanessa and Josh, for sharing that performance. Oh, never mind. Never mind. Okay, sorry, dear. All right. Vanessa, please, just a little bit about your performance would be great.
Okay. I think mental health is a huge topic for both of us because of our own experiences. We've both had our own episodes, and I was a youth worker for a few years, and so many of these instances where the police are the first responder in a situation that they're not the right person to respond to, you know, like having a person that's like armed and like trained to be kind of confrontational, very confrontational, is the last thing you need when you're like disoriented and like emotional and just need care and support. So yeah, I think this piece for us is depicting the ways that we experience those interactions, and also reimagining a way of like what it can be if those resources were allocated to a team of people who are trained to actually handle someone in crisis rather than trying to neutralize them.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Also, I just want to say the best thing for me when I'm in a crisis is that little doggy right there, Captain Kirk. That's my favorite. Hello. Young man. Good for the spirit, good for the soul. I would prefer if we had 1,300 Captain Kirks around town instead of police. This is just my suggestion. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for being with us today. It's such a pleasure to have you, and thank you again for your performance. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much for having us and having this beautiful event. I can't wait to hear and see what other people have to say about it.
Thank you, my darling. Okay, so up next, our next speaker is Lama Mugabo. Lama is a community planner with 20 years of progressive leadership experience. In 2005, Lama co-founded BBR, Building Bridges with Rwanda, a nonprofit organization designed to create a platform for collaboration between international volunteers and Rwandan people who are working to rebuild their society. At Hogan's Alley Society, Lama coordinates community engagement activities that offer opportunity for members of diaspora to build community locally and globally. Lama, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the warm welcome. Really delighted to be here in this conversation that pushes us to imagine life without policing, or in fact, taking back our community and policing our own community. So today I'm going to take you on a journey. And Vanessa, if you can put up my slides. And so I'm going to look at what we can do with the $340 million if we were to have this money and really reestablish housing as a human right. So I'm looking at how diversing from police can be done by investing in social housing to rebuild our communities. Next. So this is the content. I'm going to start with this hypothetical question. I'll talk about the situation as I see it, and I will discuss homelessness with people of African descent and make the case why we should diverse from VPD and invest in social housing. I'm going to show two examples of two municipalities in Vancouver and make the case why there's a disparity. And then I want to focus on cultural redress and reconciliation, and really talk about 58 West Hastings, Balmoral, and Regent hotels in the downtown east side. And then I want us to really imagine life without policing, and then conclude. Next, please. So just to imagine if the city of Vancouver was to divest $340 million, and what that money would do to fill the void of social housing, or at least housing people low income, housing that they can afford, housing that's dignified. So how can we use this money? Next. So here I just want to talk about equal justice for all, and talk about Hoganzade and Black people in Vancouver. So most of you probably know that there used to be a Black community here called Hoganzade. It was right in Stroud Corner on the periphery of Chinatown, right between Chinatown and the terminal. So when the bulldozers came in 1972, our community was displaced, and we lost our core. And in fact, some people who had been invited from San Francisco back in 1858 to come up here and settle down, seeing how they were treated in Vancouver, some of them decided to return. So as our numbers got smaller, we lost our political power and became invisible, yet very visible. According to the City of Vancouver homeless count, we see that while Black people make only 1% of the population, we punch at 6% among those who are unhoused. And also understand the concept of hidden homelessness. You won't see many of us in tent cities, but you will see most people couch surf with friends, or they will stay in their cars, or they will stay with their family or friends, but really they're homeless because they are not able to pay for their own accommodation. Next, please. So let's see what homelessness means. Here again, when we see that Black people are less than 1%, yet they represent 6% of the homelessness count, it means that the system has failed us. It also means that, we are not a priority. So these results indicate that Black people are significantly overrepresented among racialized groups experiencing homelessness at such a high percentage. And when you compare to other racialized groups, you see 1.2 Metro Vancouver, and it's followed by South Asian 3%, Latin America 3%. So you see 6% when we make 1% is really embarrassingly high. Next, please. So here's an image of someone who doesn't have a home, and I just want to make the point that a shelter is not a home. So what happens? You show up at the shelter and you line up. If you're lucky, you get a bed, but you must leave at 6 a.m. because they have to make room for the next intakes, and so you take all your belongings and you spend the whole day walking around. And if you didn't have a good night's sleep, and you're really tired and exhausted, if you make the mistake of falling asleep, where you wake up and all your belongings are gone. So you can imagine how this is traumatizing. Most people who don't have homes have high rates of anxiety and depression. They often result in self-medication, and they also feel very unsafe. So what we want is the governments, all three levels of government, to walk the talk and build dignified housing that low-income residents can afford. Next slide, please. So housing precarity really affects Black people in a big way. We talked about hidden homelessness and what that represents. But it's also important to look at our young people. When I talk to social workers and people who work with young Black youth, they tell me that majority of them, instead of going to college, they go to jail. And that's ridiculous that when you look at newcomer and you look at how young people who are new immigrants, they face huge housing issue, and you look at that, 10% of newcomers' youth experience homelessness. So how do we bring people in this country when we're not able to provide for them? And I know that someone like myself who came here from Rwanda, I came here thinking that I hit the jackpot, that I was going to heaven. But you get here and you look at the misery that your people are surviving in. What you thought was a paradise quickly turns into hell. So a quick reminder that housing is a human right, and that we need all three levels of government to really to work hard to solve this issue. Next slide, please. Now, a lot of people talk about, policing, and we wonder why brown and Black communities are over policed, and we wonder why. And we're told that these communities are infested with crime, and that's why they need a heavy police presence. But I would argue that if you look at the cause of crime, you have to go to poverty and look at housing, look at unemployment. Now, I want you to compare these two communities. West Vancouver is considered to be the richest postal code in Canada. Downtown East Side, on the other hand, is the poorest postal code. Look at the West Side. They have safer schools, they have healthy relationships between students and administrators, solid employment system, high wages, better quality of life, little or no police violence. There's a community trust, there's no fear, no harassment, no unnecessary street checks, unless you happen to be Black or brown. When you look at downtown East Side, there's police presence all the time. High tension between police and community residents, of course, because of racial profiling, high rates of street checks, especially among Blacks and Indigenous residents. And God forbid, if you happen to be a woman, an Indigenous woman, you really are facing hard times. High rates of police violence and no accountability whatsoever. Because what happens here is that the police investigates the police. So if there's a crime or question of police brutality, who does the investigation? A former police officer. So of course, we never get to the truth. Next slide, please. So over the years, downtown East Side community residents have organized, and we form an organization called Our Homes Can't Wait. Well, 58 Waste Tastings has been a theater of community resistance for several decades, where advocates meet and they talk and they organize campaigns, and we put pressure to City Hall in Vancouver to build housing that low-income residents can afford. We actually exerted pressure on the former mayor, who agreed and signed this agreement, and yet we never seen the housing that he promised. So there's what we envisage for 58 Waste Tastings is to build 100% welfare and pension rates to replenish what units we've lost through gentrification. We want this space to have cultural spaces for healing. We want employment opportunity. We want food security, roof garden, and a place that people can really feel safe and have families and singles living on our block, in our building. Boromoro and Regent hotels are really an example of how the city has failed its downtown east side residents. When these hotels were condemned and they had to shut down, we lost more than 1,000 tenants. So we need to bring back, using this money from the police, to revitalize these buildings and not bring them back as single room occupancy hotels, but as self-contained units. We need to really use these hotels to provide cultural meeting spaces, a grocery store. We know that there's very little food access in the downtown side. It's a food desert. We need to bring community gardens and feed people and build a immunity. Next slide, please. So here we want us to imagine life without policing. A lot of times when we say, let's defund the police, people are quick to say, oh my goodness, you know what would happen if we did that? The crime will go through the roof and it will not be a safe city. But again, you don't just do that. You engage people in a discussion, you plan, you talk, you listen to the victims of police. And quite frankly, this program might in fact help the police. What we want is the police to do what they're trained to do, not get involved in mental health and homelessness. No. We want them to be replaced by social workers and professionals who are trained to de-escalate and how to shoot. We want to keep our street and community safe. And so by imagining a new way of living, we're able to restore justice and think about how we can replace incarceration and cruelty through community work, through working with people to really transform. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, we want safer streets, safer communities. We want to build housing that low-income residents can afford. We want to create healing spaces for mental illness and addictions. We want to foster cross-cultural communication and develop projects that foster social and economic justice for all. Downtown East Side is a very rich, diverse community. And so when we talk about healing, we also want to bring back traditional medicine from First Nations, from Chinese, from others who can also help decolonize our medical profession and really restore traditions of people, First Nations that have managed this country for several years and restore trust. We also want the police to learn from other jurisdictions like New Zealand and Wales, where they don't carry guns. They leave the guns in the car and work with people. And I think this is really what will change the game. And I want to stop there and thank you for listening to me. And I'm looking for what your questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lama, for that incredible presentation and for all of the incredible work that you've been doing in the Downtown East Side with Hogan's Alley Society and Our Homes Can't Wait. I just want to return to one of 3 points that you made about imagining a life without police. 1, be proactive in solving the crime issue by understanding the root cause of poverty. That's exactly what we hope to do with this People's Budget survey. Build community capacity to help people's lives from the devastation of racist and colonial policies, why people engage in crime. And 3rd and finally, imagine a new way of solving the problem using restorative, transformative justice instead of incarceration and cruelty. All 3 incredible points and something that we all want to see happen. Thank you so much, Lama, for being with us here today. We have another musical performance coming up now by one of my favorite human beings on this whole planet of Earth. Their name is Kimmortal. Kimmortal is a queer, non-binary, Filipinx, multidisciplinary artist born a fire sign in the year of the Earth Dragon. Their ancestry is Ilocano and Visayan from Pangasinan and Negros Occidental. A musician, a rapper and singer with a background in art and theater, Kimmortal's honest wordplay and visuals tell stories of reclaiming one's healing and confronting social issues facing their generation. Up next, Kimmortal. Oh, and this song is called "K I'm Mortal."
Excuse me as I rise out this season, no deflation. Hermit in the cave is my biggest inspiration. Spinning circles like a Sufi, shaking out my mom shit. Animating all my demons, purging out internal scripts. I wanna sleep with you, but I can't even sleep with me. It gets too crowded in my head. I'm at full capacity. Suicidal pillow talk, got my dreams on standby. Overthinking all inside. I just want this spiral to die. Burden of representation, paycheck to paycheck. Social capital and stages, token round a neck. I really need a therapist who's not a white apologist. Biggest fear is tyrophobia, history of psychosis, emo, Filipino, low-key, high-key, wrestle, make me a Canadiano, but we're still on stolen land, bro. Never got an invitation to settle in flannel. My people working overtime, pattern of survival. White feminist rhetoric embedded in the fabric. Fashion handcrafted by these colonized habits. Like me at 100, how you like my 0? This fire like your fire, but this my sunny flight mode. But I'm mortal, so I'll fuck it up, okay, I'm mortal. But I gotta do better, okay, I'm mortal. Fuck it up, okay, I'm mortal. Let's take care, okay, I'm mortal. So fuck it up, okay, I'm mortal. Take care, okay, I'm mortal. Fuck it up, okay, I'm mortal. Take care, cut me open, mortal to our ancestral medicine. Don't you know it's sexy, and bitch, I can do anything. Cut me open, mortal to our ancestral medicine. Don't you know it's our season, bitch, I can do anything, cause we're mortal. So fuck it up, okay, I'm
So if you're just tuning in, that was a performance by multidiscipline artist Kimmortal. Thank you so much to Kimmortal for sharing their work with us today. I also want to thank Kim in particular for their work bringing attention to a tragic VPD murder that took place at the beginning of this year in January 2021. And that was the murder of Chester. Chester was murdered by VPD officers at the intersection of Hastings and Princess. And there should be a link being shared where you can find an interview with Kim talking about their response to that brutal and horrific murder by the local police. And you know, that is why we are here. That is why we are talking about defunding and abolition, because we know what the police do. We know who they are hunting and who they are targeting. And we know that there is no hope for reform or tinkering with this genocidal system. We've heard a number of folks speak to that, starting with Audrey this afternoon. So, you know, if you're just tuning in and trying to get up to speed on what exactly the Defund 604 network is about, I do invite folks to take a look at the demands that these folks have put together. You can find them in their link tree. We're talking about abolition. We're talking about redistributing resources. Of course, today we're focusing on the city budget and policing in particular, but we can talk about redistributing the budget for housing, as Lama has described, the systematic displacement of folks from the downtown east side, the long-term struggle and the fight for 58. And I just want to, again, express a lot of appreciation to all of the folks who have spoken so far today. And thank them for sharing their struggles and highlighting how these are interconnected. The next speaker who's going to be joining us today is Kit from PACE Society. A little bit of information about PACE in case folks haven't heard of it. PACE is a peer-driven society that seeks to reduce the harm and isolation associated with sex work through education, support, and advocacy. We work to increase the health, safety, and empowerment of members, and they do that through respecting their right to self-determination and supporting their self-identified needs. I've personally had the honor of advocating alongside Kit and other folks at PACE in efforts to defund the police over recent months in the past year. And I appreciate how they always speak truth to power when it comes to these bureaucratic machinations. And I'm thinking in particular of how they just fully said, we're not going to talk to the police board because that is some colonial bullshit. And they wrote an op-ed in the Georgia Straight about it. So welcome, Kit. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank all of the performers because you've just been amazing and it's been so lovely to be a part of this. So thank you so much. I want to start off by acknowledging that I am also on the stolen lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. And I am very grateful to be here and to have been so warmly welcomed when I am an uninvited settler. Thanks, Meenakshi, for giving us like a little brief history of PACE. PACE has been around for 27 years in the downtown east side. And I've been with PACE for 4 years now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the legal context around sex work in Vancouver and then sort of get into how I would spend the money. Currently in Canada, it's not illegal to sell sex, but it is illegal to buy it. And that sort of system of asymmetrical criminalization continues to make sex workers unsafe because it criminalizes our clients. And when our clients aren't safe, we aren't either. We're also prevented from, pardon me, from working in shared spaces or hiring people for our security needs because that's deemed illegal. So typically, traditionally, cops aren't great to sex workers and certainly haven't been great in the context in Vancouver, as we've seen with now many, many years of murdered and missing women, Indigenous and girls, and Two-Spirit folks. And so I think the first thing that I would do is let's acknowledge that there's a huge overrepresentation of Indigenous people in sex work, and a huge driver of that is colonialism and capitalism. And so part of how I would spend this money would be to provide reparations to people who have been directly impacted by police violence, especially those who have been dispossessed of their land. I would open co-op indoor working spaces, which might sound like a little bit radical, but for the folks who work outside, and stats suggest that about 20% of sex work happens outside and about 80% happens online or inside. But for the folks who work outside, they are more visible and face a lot more stigma in society and criminalization. And the fact that they don't have indoor spaces to do their work really impacts them directly. And so I think creating like affordable spaces that people could rent briefly would be really incredible, especially if they're placed in the right areas where sex work is already happening. I would use some of the police budget to increase financial resources to some projects that already exist and to some works that already exist, because we're constantly sort of like fighting for the same small pot of funding, and frequently that comes out of civil forfeiture. And that's not really something that we'd like to be taking part in. So ideally, I would provide core funding for organizations and projects that have been going for many years and just need more support to sort of like scale up the amount of capacity that they have. I would put money towards expanding Indigenous-led community safety projects like the Sweetgrass Patrol that was started this year, and creating specifically peer-led, like sex worker-led peer patrols for spaces where sex work is taking place already. And I think that's also like great because it's a job opportunity for people. And sometimes people are a little bit tired of sex work. It's not always great. It's a job like any other. And especially today on May Day, I just want to like really affirm that sex work is work and sex workers deserve the same protections as everybody else. I would definitely put some money into researching ways that we can support the community in ways that they're already keeping themselves safe. And for a lot of workers, that's taking part in like sort of like secret online groups or building their own like blacklists, which is like a list where you keep information of clients who have been harmful. And that is sometimes accessible by many people. And that's super useful for workers. But I would want to put money into research to figure out how we could make that accessible to more workers and to keep it inaccessible to clients. Because obviously then having that kind of information isn't really helpful. And so I think putting money into the research to find out what the community really needs from their own mouths is really, really important with that. And building things like whether that's an app or whether that's like a paper handout, building things that really respond to the needs of workers who are like currently dealing with the criminalization and stigmatization that we have around sex work in general. I would think that it's really important to not only fund things like housing first, but also to start refunding healthcare and mental health care that we've been cutting for decades and putting all of that money into police resources. In my mind, I'd love to abolish the police completely. And until we get there, I think it's safe to say that it is reasonable to want to demilitarize and disarm the police and to reduce their budget by drastic amounts. And I do believe that will keep us so much safer. The other things that I would put money towards would be funding projects like Rain City's Vivian building, which is a live work space for sex workers, specifically for sex workers. And it has I guess like a co-pilot project called something called the Brave button, which is a button in your room that you can press that immediately alerts the front desk that you need help, whether that's for an overdose or for violence. And I think that is a really useful system. And I think expanding that and providing more housing for sex workers could really reduce a lot of the harm that people face when they're living in general BC housing buildings and their neighbors aren't supportive of the work that they're doing, harassing them, that kind of stuff. Finally, the things that I would really put money towards that I think would really help a lot of folks would be physical self-defense classes for workers, because cops only show up after violence has occurred and the workers were in the room while it's happening. So that's something that could be really, really useful for people. And then I think just sort of like refunding the sort of like access for people who are dealing with lives in poverty, to increase their access to free education, to free transit, to free recreational spaces like swimming pools and gyms. And I think like really just like providing people with what they require. And sex workers have always been very vocal about what they need. And for a long time, it has not been the police. I don't want to go on too long, so I'm going to stop myself there. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I hope that we can sort of all keep working together to build a future that doesn't involve police. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kit. And thank you for your visions around what $340 million in police funding could go towards. And of course, we didn't choose the state by accident. It is May Day, and let's just affirm that sex work is work, and sex workers deserve access to safe, healthy, protected working conditions, like every other worker, including care workers. So really want to thank you for sharing this vision of what can happen once we defund the police and put money towards reparations, towards Indigenous and Black folks, put money towards working conditions in particular for folks who are working in the most marginalized economies, being street-based economies. Is there anything that you want to add before we go on to the next performance?
I'm just really stoked that this is happening. I'm really excited for the launch, and I'm really, really excited to sort of start pumping the survey out there so that we can start seeing how our community really wants us to spend this money. So thanks again. If anybody has any questions, feel free. Cheers.
Cool, and lots of love for Kit in the comments. And thanks for, again, reminding folks that the People's Budget launches with a survey today, and we're hoping that folks who are watching can share the link and take the survey and share it with all their communities, because we're really trying to get a sense of what we could do with all that money. We know that City Hall isn't listening to us. We know that the police board isn't listening to us. And frankly, we don't have the time to wait for them to tune in. We're ready to start designing our own solutions. So thank you again, Kit, and thank you to PACE for all the work that you folks do for sex workers. I'm now gonna introduce our next performer. Real honor to welcome Tawahum to the space. Tawahum is a Lutsil Dene Plains Cree Two-Spirit non-binary poet, and they reside on the unceded Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish territories. They've been an instrumental voice in the fight against Trans Mountain Pipeline and other extractive resource projects that threaten our shared communities. Tawahum was most recently one of 3 Indigenous land defenders who were sentenced to 28 days in prison in a pandemic by BC Supreme Court Justice Shelley Fitzpatrick, and this was for conducting ceremony to protect the land from the expansion of Trans Mountain Pipeline TMX. Tawahum, alongside Uncle Stacey Gallagher and Jim Layden, have put their body on the line time and time again in defense of the land and the water. Tanya, my co-host and MC, who notes that they've had the pleasure of sharing a few stages together, most recently in celebration of the hummingbirds that through their very existence, through their nests, have been able to help construction of TMX. So you're gonna find some links to Tawahum's incredible work in the chat, and I'm really honored to welcome Tawahum Bige to today's panel.
Tansei, you able to hear me all right? Beautiful. Hopefully it doesn't descend into crackliness, as that happens sometimes, but I'm really happy to be here. I'm coming to you from unceded Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh territory, and yeah, you heard it, I'm Lutsil Dene, and I'm Plains Cree on my mom's side, and I'm Hungarian and British on my dad's. I did spend a month in jail. And I guess like when I think of like the police, I don't just think about that. Like my family's relationship with the police has existed, I don't know, since before I was born, but especially like once, you know, I have this late brother who struggled a lot with like mental health issues, and the police didn't treat him very kindly. So, I mean, that's just one of many. If you go into the history of the RCMP, any police force really, they're a genocidal force on Turtle Island, either side of the border. But the RCMP especially started out as like a force that legitimately killed indigenous whiskey traders, and they did it so good that they netted a contract for the nation. So you can never get rid of that kind of history. So police isn't the solution. I heard 340 million. I quickly did the math. To put it in perspective, that's 68 $5 million chandeliers that are hanging from Granville. You know, we get all up in arms about ridiculous art pieces. That's 68 of those ridiculous art pieces. Not that I want those. If I ever wanted those, it'd just be to break them. But that's a really expensive breaking habit. So that's my thought about the budget. It could go to a million other brilliant things that would actually be helpful for our communities, including actually keeping them safe. I got these two pieces for y'all, and they're a little bit about this employee of Trans Mountain who testified against me in court, and you'll learn a little bit about his history. This is called Mr. Beck's New Evidence. Call it ex-cop diaries of the traveling hierarchies. Needle-nosed executive suite. It's conjecture, my lord, but I believe he does cocaine. This man put men in cuffs for 36 years before becoming security manager for Trans Mountain, and he dons a Harper haircut and stands with entitlement abreast of red-coated, fur-traded, gold-mined, court-ordered, fort-bordered, drawn, quartered, pox-spreaded, deregulated, wealth-hoarded, mass-sacred, live-backward, booze smuggled, gun-holstered, blade, scabbard, treaty, broker, baby boomer, divide, conquered, townhouse-gated, clan-fated, children taken, bloodbath-weighted, correctly stated, minds erased, and Canadian-valued, settler, soldier. Except, instead of spreading disease and igniting cannon, yo, he watches cameras and pushes pencils to lay his pipes to rest. And this is a little rap piece for y'all. They lay pipes to rest, my spirit wakes again. Workers stand abreast, wearing reflective vests. Police checkpoint ahead while their judge sits on a bench. Forest blaze across continents, yo, smell this putrid stench. Trucker high on a seat, Merson AR-15, smelling diesel fuel green, sludge thick, maple leaf, a quill, an inkwell, injunction registry, trading furs, lies, gold coins and beads. Divided, captured, they make the bucket, we are the crab. Without a treaty, it's with enclosure they seize the land. Yo, their laws are bullshit, discarding their own science lab. Whispers in English courtroom, where they set the trap. Trans Mountain's camp, intricate paths shown on Google Maps. Overtime clocked in bacon, sizzling for cash. Bitumen sinking in the wake of wrath. When the eagle feather burns, it will all turn to ash. And those are my two pieces for y'all. Masicho hi to be invited into this space amongst folks who are doing such incredible work to help defund the police, get rid of the police entirely. That would be lovely. Yeah, hi.
Thank you so much, Tawahum, for that beautiful work and art that you just shared with us. It kind of reminds me of the before times when we could go and see you performing all over Commercial Drive. So it's really nice to see your face and hear your spoken word and poetry. And again, lots of folks loving what you just shared and also laughing. And I feel like I need to talk like this whenever I talk about the police budget forevermore, because that's the only way to capture the kind of bullshit bureaucracy that we're navigating. So that was Lutsilktane, Plains Cree, Two-Spirit, non-binary poet Tawahum Bige. And thank you again for sharing your work with us today. I'm now going to introduce our final speaker, and that is Garth Mullins. I'm really honored again to introduce Garth Mullins, a longtime drug use organizer, a member of the BC Association of People on Opiate Maintenance, and now known internationally as the host and executive producer of the Crackdown podcast. Garth is an award-winning documentarian, longtime community organizer. He's been an opioid user for years, injecting heroin daily all the way through the last overdose crisis and now on methadone in the latest crisis. The podcast that Garth produces, Crackdown, is led by an editorial board made of some of Vancouver's most experienced drug user activists, and Crackdown is produced by Cited Media Productions on the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And if folks haven't listened to Crackdown, please do. The latest episode features the incredible Desmond Cole talking about the policing of Black folks. And if it wasn't drugs, it would be something else. So welcome, Garth, and over to you.
Hey, thanks very much. I think you all have to start my video. That's it. There it comes. Is it here? Boom. Hey, thanks very much. Yeah, my name's Garth Mullins. I make the Crackdown podcast. I'm part of the Vancouver area network of drug users. And thank you to Tanya Minakshi and everybody else who's been on this panel. I just still have Audrey Siegel's words ringing in my head. Our rage is sacred. And she said, don't let anybody make you feel bad for your anger. And I like that because sometimes I do feel like I only have a couple of modes of feeling, which is like numbness and anger. But today is May Day, and this is where the working class of the world has organized to fight for our next set of demands. And it's been going on for, since the 19th century. And in my life, I've been, construction worker, sex worker, mine worker, policy wonk, student, welfare recipient. I've been all kinds of things in the economy. And I think about how groups of workers, we can't get divided off of each other, that we got to come together. And no matter what kind of way you think about the working class, the police are not part of that. And police unions are not part of that. And so when I think about defund and abolish the police, I think May Day is the perfect time to talk about that, because police in North America and a lot of the world have been built as an engine, or sort of the front engine of colonization, to displace people off land, to do slave patrols, and to break up strikes. So workers have always faced police first as representatives of the bosses. And I think we still see police in Vancouver acting as agents of property protection and property relations protection. So thank you for inviting me here. And I think what a great question to talk about. How do we spend $170 million? And, on the one hand, that sounds like a lot of money, right? Because it's got million in it. And on the other hand, the size of the social deficit, like the amount of austerity and cuts that we've had over the last couple of decades, mean there's a big hole. But if you just think about that, that's 170 million in Vancouver. So that is a lot of money. And I think about the things that I work on, like the Vancouver area network of drug users budget for a year to run organizing space, harm reduction distribution, and a safe injection site is around $200K. So we can have really effective community programs, really, and that money can go far and that sort of thing. And people say, well, if we have less police or no police, how do we keep ourselves safe? And I think about my life and the people I've known and worked with and lived with. We haven't been able to call the police, you know, if something bad's happening, like if your place gets broken into, or if someone's threatening you. Like I have not been a part of a world where you can just call the police, because we don't know what's going to happen. You know, people can get killed, assaulted. We could go to jail, get your drugs seized. The outcomes are really risky, and we've certainly seen that. So we've had to keep ourselves safe. And what that means is, in my life, means that me and friends have written down license plate numbers for the protection of people who are doing sex work, people looking out for each other on the street in that same circumstance. It means people looking out for each other when we're using drugs. So if there's an overdose, we can jump in and reverse it. It means all of us have trained ourselves on naloxone, like how to use naloxone to reverse overdoses and save people's lives. It means that we have to be able to de-escalate people, which I think is actually a natural human reflex. You know, I think the cops train it out of themselves, but you know, when someone's having a bad day or off on one or something, you talk them down. You say, hey, do you want a cigarette or something? And we've had that function almost stolen off of us out of communities. And the cops come, and sometimes they just jump out all ready to go, guns pulled. And that's what happened to our neighbor and friend Chester in January. And I've had lots of experience where I've de-escalated people myself, and lots of people around Vancouver have done that. So I know if we're organized and funded a little bit, people can play a much bigger role in keeping each other safe. You know, the things that are missing for safety in the community are also just basic things that are so commonsensical, like housing and daycare, and not special set aside social pilot, this and that, lots of control, just regular housing, like, you know, apartments that people can afford. But the thing I wanted to focus on was safe supply. The contaminated drug supply is killing lots and lots of my friends and colleagues. Probably half the people I came up with are gone now. I'm middle-aged, but since I was a teenager, I've used heroin and opioids and methadone and all kinds of hard drugs. But half of those people are gone, and mostly taken by a toxic drug supply. And the simplest way to stop the overdose crisis, just taken 7,000 people in British Columbia in the last 5 years, and 20,000 people in Canada over the same time. The simplest way to stop that is just to replace the toxic drug supply with pharmaceutical grade heroin, cocaine, stimulants, whatever. And the government is unwilling to do that. They're gutless cowards. They have no interest in saving people's lives. So we have done that ourselves sometimes, illegally at first. And that is the program that I think we should spend some of this money on. So I give you an example. On April the 14th of this year, which was the 5-year anniversary of when the province officially declared there was an overdose crisis, a bunch of us organized into what's called the Drug User Liberation Front and just gave out meth, heroin, and crack, and just gave it out on the street. Set up a little tent, you know, tested the stuff with a mass spectrometer to make sure it wasn't contaminated and that it would be safe for people to take, and gave it out. And the people on the street were lined up, you know, down the alley, down from between Dunleavy to Gore. And the lineup was more collegial and friendly and well ordered than like a lineup at an Apple store for a new phone. And the people who did this did it volunteer, took risks that the police could arrest. Although we had a band there, Crack Cloud play, and so lots of people were around, and the police would have had to wade in. But it was proof that this is community safety. This is us identifying the thing that's killing us and taking measures to replace it. And this is how we got needle distribution and safe injection sites, by doing it ourselves illegally first. So before there was Insight, there was underground safe injection sites. Before there was needle distribution, there were people who worked in healthcare and stole boxes of needles from work and gave them out from backpacks. So this is how everything changes, though. And this is how we have, this is why we have May Day, because of illegal worker organizing from the 19th century. this is how the modern world came to be, is struggle. So the good stuff that we have in the modern world, I should say, such as the weekend that we're on now, comes from this kind of struggle. But I'd also want to spend a little money on making the world beautiful too. And I'm blind. I'm disabled. I'm blind. So to me, beauty comes in sound. Shout out to Kimmortal, by the way. That sounded great on the mic. And also, I share this with them. This is a microKORG. Sounded really good. I noticed that's what they were using. And I make some of the score for Crackdown with that. But also, we need a little money so that people can do this, right? Like to buy and share gear and to make records like this. This is called 100 Block Rock. This was made all by people living on the downtown east side, came out earlier this year, and you can find it on Bandcamp. 100 Block Rock is the name of a poem and a book by the late Bud Osborne. But we need to set aside a little money so that there can be, you know, a studio, an ability to press vinyl or to publicize music. And I think that I don't say it tritely because in my life, music really saved me in a lot of ways. You know, it gave me a way to say and hear and experience something that's real. And geez, in this gaslighting world, you really need that. So set aside a little bit of money for that too. So those are my basically my proposals for what to do with the $170 million. And thanks very much for having me.
Garth, thank you so much for being with us. You know, I love you so much. You're such a brilliant soul. And I was so super excited when I saw the latest episode of Crackdown come out and saw my brother man, Desmond Cole, on the bench just waiting to talk with you. Made me so happy. And I just want to celebrate what you said about creativity and art and music and how much we need that. It's part of our recovery. It's part of our how we heal from, you know, all of these thousands of years of, I'm going to go ahead and say it, thousands of years of fuckery. Okay. So thank you so much for pointing that out. And I, like you, would love to see millions of dollars go into creative spaces for us to make art together, especially art that's about the struggles that we have, because it's so inextricably linked, and art and creativity is the way that we push through that and also spread the message. So thank you so much, Garth, for being with us today.
Thanks for inviting me, Tanya.
Oh, I'll invite you anywhere, every time. Anywhere, every time. Okay, folks, we have had an incredible afternoon thus far, hearing from incredible people in our community who have shared their thoughts about how we can defund the police and redirect those funds to our communities. I just want to say a huge thank you to Audrey Siegl, Lama Mugabo of Hogan's Alley, Garth, who you just heard from, Kit of Pace, the incredible Kimmortal, and of course, Vanessa UN and Josh Cameron, who did that incredible dance performance for us. The next few minutes of this time together, we only have about 15 or so minutes left. What I would like to do is to open up the space to you incredible folks who are out there watching this live stream. I would like to invite you to take a couple of minutes to find a piece of paper and a pen and something that is a circular object that you can trace a circle around. Karina is going to screen share, and we are going to give you some prompts. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, 2 minutes of fury. Go get yourself a piece of paper, go get yourself a pen. I'm going to grab one too. Okay, fine, folks. So take your circle. You can use a bowl or a plate, or like me, if you have tape next to you, you can use that. And take your pen and trace yourself a little circle. Inside of this circle is your planet. And on this planet, all things are possible. What we would like to do is to inspire you to take a few minutes to draw or write or make a representation of what a police-free future looks like to you. You can go as big or as small as you like. So if you would like to zoom in and represent relationships that are happening on your planet, you can do that. And if you would like to zoom all the way out and show us exactly what your planet looks like, that works too. The hope today is to crowdsource your input on how we should be redirecting these police funds. So we've heard a couple of different numbers today. One is the entire allotment of the police budget, which is $340+ million. And the other is 50% of the budget, which is about $150 or so million. Like I said, you can zoom in as close as you want to show the molecules and minutia of your planet, or you can zoom out to reflect the whole planet or anything in between. You can depict relationships, structures, messages, or people, anything that comes to mind for you in a police-free future. Once you have spent a little bit of time working on this piece of art, what we would like to do is to invite each and every one of you to share that art with us at the Defund Network. You can do so by reaching us at defund604@gmail.com. Just take a snap of your piece of art and send it to us via email, or you can post it online using the hashtag PeoplesBudget604 on Instagram or Twitter. I'm sure there are other social media platforms, but I don't care about those. Yeah, so what we're going to do is for the rest of our time here together, we're going to play a little bit of music. We're going to take a little bit of time to draw our abolitionist world and how on this planet we would spend the police budget. There's so many incredible ideas that have come to us today. For example, Garth talking about spending the money on providing safe supply, making sure that people have the tools and resources that they need to create art studios or create spaces where people can collaborate. And the reason why we are participating in this collaborative project with you today is because what we would like to do is we would like to take the art that you share with us and drop it into our Defund 604 logo. So as you can see, shared on the screen right now is our Defund 604 logo. And all of the circles with the lines connecting them are a representation of the Defund 604 mycelial network of care. So all of the ways that we connect with each other to provide care to our community. And as you can see, Karina is kind of populating the image right now with some of the incredible images that people have spoken about or drawn themselves. So we have one here, sex work is work and all workers deserve protection. We already know how to keep each other safe. So we have approximately 20 minutes of time together. In that time, I would like you to take your creative tools, your pens, your pencils, your paints, your whatever you have on hand, and spend a little bit of time dreaming together what we are going to spend these liberated dollars on. I love this. We matter more than any amount of money. That's a quote direct from Audrey Siegl at the beginning of today's presentation. So I'm going to play a little bit of music and we're going to get creative together, and then we'll come back together for our goodbyes just before 3 o'clock. All right, here we go.
present and my future. So we get any cleaner. This is another dimension. And deja vu that is good for my kids and my blessing. All the empathy that I'm feeling. Got me bottles up, sponge up. Saved by the hip hop. When music hits, you feel no pain. From my brush, from my mind, in these pain things. My soul, just when I keep painting. Thank you for this day. And your pain, your pain, and your pain. I pain again.
Hey folks, sorry, we are having some issues with audio share. So unfortunately, you're just gonna have to listen to the sound of my sweet voice instead, I guess. But what I will do in the meantime is share some of the thoughts that were shared within the Defund network about what a people's budget means to us and how we can use it to supplant police power. So some of the quotes that we received are, the people's budget is a mechanism for imagination, necessary for sustainability. It allows us to move out of respond and react mode, and which is how we all live now. The people's budget is a precious reminder of what we are working towards. Another one here from another member of the Defund network. The people's budget is a tool to redefine what money and capital can mean. It's a tool for us to fight to use money for oppressed folks to help them decide what they need. Another one here. The people's budget means more money freed up for services that are more important than the cops. It also means less cops on the streets, which I don't know about you, but that makes me feel real good inside. What else have we got here? Okay, I'm not going to say the swear word, but it's a sweet opportunity to tell the cops to and allows us to figure out ways how we would use that money. It's also a way for one-on-one engagement and allows us to connect with people in person, online, and in the streets. Another one here. The people's budget is a tool for defunding and is a tool for us to build skills and practice doing things outside of the state.
Tanya, we're also getting some in from folks online who are tagging People's Budget 604 or the Defund.
Yeah, I see here from our favorite friend, all cucumbers are beautiful. Here's my drawing of an abolitionist future for Defund 604 network. And all it says and all it needs to say is land back. And it has a sweet little piece of outdoor stuff in there. I love it. I hope that you are all having an opportunity to think creatively about what it might mean to you to defund the police, what it might mean to you to take away the astronomical amount of funding they have and pour it into things that a sweet little bit of outdoors. Yeah, I said that. I think about all of the ways that we might be able to reinvest that money into our community. Again, just to give you an idea of what we're going to do with all of these incredible pieces of art, we're going to use them to populate our Defund 604 network and find a beautiful way to visualize all the ways that we as a community see this money benefiting us if we can just get our hands on it. That's $340 million that the police have that we deserve to have.
It's a whole lot of cucumbers, and maybe we can just take a second to plug our dear beloved friend at All Cucumbers Are Beautiful. They are doing some incredible work growing plant seeds and starts for a fundraising project for the Vancouver Prison Justice Day Committee. They are holding a sale tomorrow if you happen to live in Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh territory in so-called Vancouver. You can check it out because this, land back and the ability to grow and maintain your own food sovereignty is absolutely a part of the future we're imagining when we defund, dismantle, and abolish the police. So we love you. All cucumbers are beautiful, and we love the work that you're doing to support prison abolition.
Thank you so much for that shout out. Also, just want to take a moment to celebrate that we made it to this point today. This is People's Budget is a long time coming. 6 months of working together as a collaborative group to put this survey together. So if you haven't already, make sure you retrieve the link to the survey from the chat and share that with your people, share that with your networks. And we hope that all of the input that we receive from this survey will enable us to build power together and find ways to further our call. And we're just so excited to get all of your input and to get all of your feedback. And we're so excited to be able to share it with you here today. This is the People's Budget 604 launch party. If you haven't connected with the Defund 604 demands yet, please do so. I believe that the link for the defund, all of the defund work can be found in the chat. We have a link tree that you can check out where you can find the demands, you can find the People's Budget, you can find a link back to this event so you can watch it all over again, and so that you can share it with the people that you know and love. I love all of the images that I'm seeing here and all of the quotes that we've received so far from some of the incredible speakers that we've had today. So this one right here, a shelter is not a home. Housing not only reduces crime, it is a right. That's from Lama Mugabo from Hogan's Alley Society. This one too from Garth Mullins. We already know how to keep each other safe. That's so true. When you think about the things that Garth was saying about people from Vancouver being really able to de-escalate, no problem. And then you see the police and they have no ability to do that. And this one too, we honor and follow the lands of this Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh land. Yes. I keep coming back to this, something that Audrey said, which is, these laws are bullshit. These laws are bullshit. The state's laws are bullshit. And this little piece here, I love, my little anarchist buddy. There's so many incredible pieces of art that are coming through, and we're super grateful. Again, if you want to share your art with us, you can do so by emailing it to us at defund604@gmail.com, or alternatively, you can throw it up on Instagram or Twitter using the hashtag #PeoplesBudget604. Oh, this one is my favorite. Cops are not healthy for children and other living things. And yes, thank you, Karina, for writing that on this document. This is a living work of art. Just like everything that we create in the Defund 604 network, we are always open to change and being transformed by this liberatory work, which means everything that we make together is alive and able to change. Oh, we have some art from Garth. I need to see that. A living work of art. We are making art together. Oh, wow. How can I share this? Thank you so much.
We could go into our final mycelial network, which will be an ever-growing thing. And hopefully this can be shared through our social media, and folks can also keep sharing their images and tagging Defund 604 and People's Budget 604. And we love that you want to contribute to this and join these networks of care.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi. As you said, after this event is done, we will be sharing this collaborative art piece, and so look forward to including all of your suggestions and all of the ways that you would like to see funding and spending prioritized in our community. The People's Budget is Oh, ho, ho. I don't know if you will be able to see this, but somebody in my house just came and showed this to me. It's a piece of art that is on seed paper, so it can be planted in the ground to grow new and beautiful living things. And on it, it says heal, grow, cooperate, regenerate. And then right in the middle, it says defund those police. Oh, that's so cute. That's my hubby. All right, folks. So we are nearing the end of our time here together today. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for being a part of this event. I want to bring up my co-host with the most, co-pilot. Come on up here. There we are. Meenakshi, what do you have to say?
I just want to thank all the folks who made this event come together. I know it looks shiny and glossy, like it's just Tanya and I and the speakers and the performers, but there's a whole cadre of supporters in here. We have Karina sharing art. We have folks who are doing tech support. We have folks who have been monitoring YouTube and sharing links and resources through there. We have folks who've been supporting the ASL breakout space. Special thanks to our ASL interpreters, Liz and Larissa. We've got folks who have been live tweeting the event and sharing images through Instagram. And I think this just speaks to like how our network continues to come together and provide support and care to each other. So I want to thank everyone who made this event happen, and also big appreciation to all the folks who have been working on the People's Budget over many months. I've seen it kind of come together out of the corner of my eye. I know it's a labor of love. If folks have a chance to fill out that survey, please do. A lot of care and attention went into it. And this has been really inspiring. I know that I feel like there's so many different dimensions to defunding the police that we've been able to talk about. And I love that we've also been talking about like creating beautiful shared spaces together. You know, as someone who's, you know, often is speaking out against policing, people are like, well, what do you want? What do you want when the police are defunded? And it's like beautiful, harmonious communities where obviously we're going to have conflict and we're going to have struggle, but we're also going to have moments of beauty, and we're not going to be subject to armed militarized force. We're going to be able to work through issues with accountability and justice and transformative processes, and hopefully some access to like these beautiful lands and waters that have been stewarded for folks since time immemorial here where we are, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh territory. And you know, that also means that we have to fight projects like TMX and up north CGL, because defunding, dismantling, abolishing the police is just the start. We are coming for you, Canada.
Oh, you went straight for them, huh? Okay, I like that. It's true though, we are. One of the things that has really been a beautiful learning process over the course of the last year for me is understanding the deep relationships between the police and the state. It's not just the police that are our problem. There's a much bigger issue at hand here. And conversations like this and deepening our understanding through activities like this allows us to draw those connections and understand how big the real problem actually is. And it's not just the police, it's about redefining our relationship with the state and understanding that no one is illegal on these lands. We all deserve to live, and it's only one person that decided that we needed to pay for the privilege to do that. That's rude. Yo, it's 2:56 p.m. This has been the People's Budget launch party. All of the links to fill out the survey, as well as connect with all of the work that Defund 604 Network is doing, are in the chat. Please, please, please stay in contact with us. Stay up on this work that's happening and connect with your communities. And remember, it's all about everyday acts of abolition and deepening and reconnecting those mycelial networks of care.
Thank you again. And if folks want to follow our work, we're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please do. You can follow our link tree where we update our latest actions. We're so proud to launch the People's Budget today, May Day 2021, and start speaking truth to power when it comes to cops and carceral funding in our community. Please do fill out the survey. If you want to support our work, we also welcome that. You can make donations to the Defund Network through PayPal, we're Defund 604 Network, or through e-transfer, defund604@gmail.com. We are so excited to bring this work to you and start imagining a world beyond policing and criminalization.
I just want to take this opportunity to say another very quick thank you to all of the incredible folks working behind the scenes who have made this possible. We love you so, so much. And also, again, Liz and Larissa are fabulous interpreters. And also to all of the speakers and performers who joined us today, Audrey Siegl, Lama Mugabo, Garth Mullins, Kit of Pace, Kimmortal, Vanessa and Josh Cameron. We are so incredibly grateful for your participation today and look forward to seeing you in the real.
Thanks everyone. And we're gonna go out with this image created by Karina to reflect the work of art that we are making together. This has been the launch of the People's Budget by the Defund 604 Network. Thanks everyone.
Happy May Day, babies.